pages 1682 and 83. The queen comes in. This is after the king and Laertes have begun their plotting against Hamlet. The queen comes in and kind of tells Laertes, get ready for the other shoe to fall. Your sister's dead. Okay? He says, where? And she tells us. There's a willow grows ascant that is over the brook that shows its hoary leaves in the glassy streams, there with fantastic garlands that is at the brook. She made of crow flowers, and she talks about the flowers and stuff. And so what did Ophelia do? According to the queen's description. Okay, but just before this, she climbed out on a branch, okay, and was pulling apparently flowers and vines off the branch to weave something like a wreath to go around her head. That's the chaplet that's mentioned. And the branch breaks. Okay, she falls into the river or into the brook, which is what it says, when clambering to hang, an envious liver, that is branch broke, when down her weedy trophies, the gathering of flowers that she had, and herself fell in the weeping brook. Her clothes spread wide. She's wearing kind of a big, flowy gown. So she lands in the water. The clothes kind of flow out to the side. And she's there being held up by the clothes before they get soaked with the water. Okay? And we're told, a while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old lauds. Old lauds means old hymns. Okay? So, while she was there, floating on her back, being buoyed up by her clothing, she sings old hymns. Okay? And we're told, as one incapable of her own distress, not realizing what was about to happen to her. Okay? Why did she not realize what was about to happen to her? What have we already seen start to happen with Ophelia? Or maybe even full bore has already happened. She goes crazy. When does that begin? When Hamlet says his to be or not to be speech, and then tells her, get thee to a nunnery, I loved you once, I didn't love you, don't believe men, etc., etc. How do we know it begins then? Because she says, to have seen what I have seen, to see what I see. Okay? That's the beginning of her madness. And then Hamlet kills her father. And that sends her over. Okay? So, notice also what this little speech by the queen, what's the word I want? Presumes, or assumes, or supposes. Somebody must have heard her singing. Or is she just creating a story? Is she just totally fictionalizing this? Okay? I think the word is brought to her, and whoever brings the word to her, Ophelia's dead, says, you know, I heard singing. And I think the implication is the person hears singing, goes to where he or she hears the singing, and by the time they get there, where's Ophelia? She's down at the bottom. She's already drowned. Okay? So, to get to the one of you said, when I asked the question, how did she die? You said she committed suicide. Did she commit suicide? Who's the first person, quiz question, who suggests she commit suicide? It's one of the gravediggers. In the gravediggers' opening speech, Act 5. Is she to be buried in Christian burial when she willfully seeks her own salvation? The willfully seeks her own salvation means when she killed herself. Because what do you get? Supposedly, you know, let's go all namby-pamby. Let's don't talk Calvinism. Let's talk the extremely kind of wishy-washy, you know, religiosity. I won't even call it Christianity. If you live an okay life, if you're not too bad, everybody goes to the same place of light and happiness. Okay? That's kind of what he's saying. But he's saying she committed suicide because she killed herself. Second clown. Yep, she's going to be given a Christian burial. Therefore, let's get it done quickly. Right? The crowner, that is coroner, hath sat on her. That is, there's been a coroner's inquest, and the coroner determined, right, that this wasn't suicide. He finds a Christian burial. First clown. How can it be not suicide unless she drowned herself in her own defense? Self-defense. Notice, he's being ludicrous here. He's not offering a sound legal theory for her death. So they talk back and forth. They argue back and forth. And the second clown says, because the first clown, he's still trying to wrap his mind about it. Why are we digging a burial in the churchyard for this person who committed suicide? See, in the traditional Christian tradition, if you're suicide, you get buried outside the church grounds, and you don't get any of the quote-unquote prayers and ceremonies of the church done. The prayers are ritual of the church, right? Because you've gone to hell. You've gone to hell, at least according to the Catholic tradition, okay? So, second clown says, line 20, you want to really know? You want to know the real answer? It kind of goes all, I don't know what you'll call it. There's a variety, there's a branch of politics that would entirely exist on his side. If this had not been a gentlewoman, she should have been buried out of Christian burial. What's he mean, a gentlewoman?
Because she's royalty, she gets this.
Essentially. She's not literally royalty, but he's essentially saying, if she weren't part of the 1%, if she weren't part of the upper crust of society, okay, where would she have been buried? Outside the church. Only reason she's buried inside the church is because Polonius pulled some strings. Okay? Excuse me. Gertrude, because Polonius is already dead, pulled some strings. All right? So, they keep talking. And Hamlet and Horatio come in, we're told, at a distance. So if you're thinking of the stage, kind of goes like this. The gravediggers, I would probably put them out here. Hamlet and Horatio enter in from about as far away as they can. Or, as is often done today at the Globe Theatre in London, maybe the gravediggers are back here. And in the yard, as they often do, they have two kind of walkways blocked off where people can't stand so that actors can make entrances and exits at the front of the stage. So maybe Hamlet and Horatio do that. So Hamlet and Horatio listen to them, and Hamlet's like, man, this guy has no feeling. Here he is digging a grave, and he's making jokes and singing songs. Okay? And Horatio says, line 59, custom hath made it in him a property of easiness. Custom, habit, hath made it easy for him to take this job lightly. Why? He's buried so many people. What's one more? It doesn't mean anything to him. But notice, Horatio talks about custom. When did we last hear a conversation about custom? When Hamlet's in his mother's bedroom and he talks to her about assume a virtue, because habit, custom, if you assume it for one night, it'll make it easier the next night. And then the next night, the next night, the next night, etc. Okay? So he's taking what Hamlet kind of said to his mother. Now, Horatio was not there. He doesn't know about Hamlet's having that conversation with his mother from the text. Maybe Hamlet told him about it. But Horatio brings that idea back up And it's almost like Hamlet's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I was just talking to Mom about that a few days ago. Okay? So, the guy throws up, the clown, the gravedigger, throws up a skull, and Hamlet picks it up, holds it, and he's like, this skull had a tongue in it once, top of 1685, line, I don't know, 64 or so, 66, and could sing once. And he goes on and talks about it. He says it could have been a politician. Horatio, yeah, could have been. Or could have been a courtier, yeah, could have been. All right? Throws up another skull. And Hamlet goes on about this one. He picks up this one. It says, this could have been a lawyer. And he talks about all the things lawyers do. Now, if I remember correctly, I could be off here, Shakespeare was involved in 3 lawsuits while he lived in London. Each of them involved property. Okay? I kind of imagine Shakespeare didn't like lawyers very well. Okay? And here we get an example of what lawyers do. And it's the hair splitting kind of mentality. Okay? And Horatio says, yeah, you're right, could have done that. Okay? So finally, Hamlet addresses the clown, the first gravedigger himself. And he says, line 110, what man dost thou dig it for? What man are you digging this grave for? For no man. Hamlet's like, okay. What woman? If it's not for a man, it must be for a woman. You don't bury a dog in a cemetery, and you don't dig a 6-foot deep grave. For none neither. Who is to be buried in it? One that was a woman, sir. So why does he say one that was a woman? What's the gravedigger doing? Okay, Hamlet's been talking about lawyers, right? The gravedigger's splitting hairs. He's acting like a lawyer does. He's saying, well, the body that's going to be put in here isn't a woman any longer. Why not? Because she's not alive. What is it? Carrion. It's a sack of meat. It's the she that made it a woman is gone. The soul has left. Okay? So they keep talking, and Hamlet asks, how long have you been gravedigger here? Okay? Line 123, Hamlet asked that. Okay? Now take that back. Line 120. And the first clown says, I've been gravedigger here since the day our last king overcame Fortinbras. Our last king, Hamlet Sr., when he defeated Fortinbras. So, Hamlet Sr. kills Fortinbras. That's when the gravedigger became king. Became gravedigger. Okay? Hamlet. Well, how long ago was that? Don't you know? Every fool can tell that. It was the very day Hamlet Jr. was born. So Hamlet Jr. was born the day Hamlet Sr. killed Fortinbras. Right? Fortinbras Sr., I should say, of Norway. And he talks about Hamlet, this one, the same one that's been sent into England. Hamlet, why was he sent to England? Because he's mad. He shall recover his wits there. Or if he doesn't, no great matter. Why? Because it won't be seen in him there. There the men are as mad as he. Mad meaning crazy. Now, that's a little bit of self-deprecation on Shakespeare's part. It's designed to be self-deprecation for all the people in the audience, too. Because he's saying, we're all crazy. So it doesn't matter if Hamlet comes over here. Now, probably the upper crust in the galleries, they're going, we're not crazy. But the groundlings standing in the yard, they're probably slapping their thighs, laughing over that. Okay? So, they keep talking about Hamlet. How came he mad? By losing his wits, etc., etc. Hamlet says, upon what ground? That is, upon what basis did he lose his wits? That's what he means by upon what ground. The gravedigger listens to it, however, and he takes ground to have what? Its base meaning. The ground. Upon what ground did he lose his wits? Well, Denmark, Danish ground. And then the clown says, or gravedigger says, I have been sexton here, man and boy, 30 years. Hamlet's 30 years old. Prior to this, in reading the play, did you think Hamlet was 30? No, he comes across as being much younger, right? Maybe late teens, early 20s. We do know he's a university student. People did attend university younger than they do in our day because they did the quote-unquote grade school, elementary school, 5 or 6 to 11 or 12. And then you get ready for university kind of after that. There's not an intermediate high school per se in Shakespeare's day, okay? Or middle school or high school. So Hamlet's 30. How old was Ophelia? We're never told. How old's Horatio? We're never told. Laertes? We're never told. Though Hamlet calls Laertes a youth, which seems to imply Hamlet's older than Laertes is. Okay? So, Hamlet asks, how long will bodies lie here before they rot and stuff? And he says, it depends on the job and such. So we're going to skip a bit. And the guy throws up another skull. Okay? And he says, line 154, this same skull, sir, was Yorick's skull, the king's jester, Hamlet. This, even that, Hamlet takes it. And says, one of the most famous lines in all of Shakespeare, only it's usually misquoted. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio. The way it's misquoted is it usually says, alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. It doesn't say that, okay? And what's he say about Yorick? Yorick used to carry him on his back. So Hamlet would grab on Yorick's back and they'd go running around through the castle. Okay? So, he keeps holding Yorick's skull and he asks Horatio, dost thou think Alexander looked of this fashion in the earth? Alexander the Great, okay? 4th century BC, who conquered the known world. If you want to compare world empires compared with the world as it was known at the time of the various empires, Alexander the Great had the greatest empire the world has ever seen. Except for maybe England, just before England lost its empire status. Okay? Because England, 1850s up to 1900, England could truly say the sun never set on English territory. There was always a part of the world where somebody was English and in charge, etc. So, Hamlet says, do you think Alexander looked like this? Horatio, yep. Smelled like, yep. To what base uses we may return, Horatio? Base, ground level again. But it also means common, mundane, low. So what are the uses? He says, why may not imagination trace the noble dust of Alexander till it find it stopping a bunghole? A bunghole is the hole in a cask, like a cask of beer or cask of wine. We think they're, today, they're either made out of cork or plastic. Shakespeare's day, they were often made out of clay, loam. Okay? He says, why might not the imagination say, Alexander became, a stopper in a beer keg? Horatio. It's to think too finely about it, my lord. What does he mean? Don't go there, Hamlet. Why not? What does Alexander's life become? What's the purpose of his existence become? To stop a bunghole. What's the meaning of life? To become clay, to stop a bunghole. No, Hamlet says. No, let's take this idea. Alexander died, Alexander was buried. Alexander returns to dust. The dust is earth, of which we make loam. See, loam isn't just you dig up earth and that's it. No, you mix it with other stuff. Okay? And why of that loam whereto he was converted might they not stop a beer barrel? And he invents this little poem about using Caesar as mortar in a wall to stop out the wind. Okay? So he's Alexander, Caesar, what are they both? Kings. What's on his mind? Kill Claudius. Why not, So, he then sees, Hamlet does, the king and queen, Laertes, and the corpse brought in. Notice we have in brackets, the corpse in brackets of Ophelia. Okay? He can't see Ophelia. Why? She's in a casket. Or she might not be in a casket. But she would be then wrapped in her burial or death shroud. She'd all be wrapped up like in a sheet. Okay? But they're carrying the body, and the body's being carried first. It's leading the procession. Okay? And Hamlet says, who is this they follow? That's the body. And with such maimed rites. What does maimed mean? What happens if you're maimed?
You're like torn up.
You're torn up. You lose something. If you're a basketball player and your right hand gets cut off, you better be really good with your left hand. If you're a soccer player and you get your left leg cut off, you're not a soccer player anymore. At all. It's physically impossible. Okay? Unless you can hop really, really, really well. So, the maimed rites, he's saying, as they're getting closer, and he hears the priest chanting prayers, Hamlet's like, wait, that's not right. They skipped this song. They skipped this prayer. They skipped whatever. The rites are maimed. They've been shortened. They've been cut up. Okay? This doth betoken, that is, Hamlet's listening, goes, I know why this is this way. Whoever's body that is, it did with desperate hand fordo its own life. Whoever's body that is, that person killed him or herself. That's the only reason why there are the maimed rites. Even in churches today, in the Orthodox Church that I'm part of, if somebody dies from suicide, depending upon what the bishop says, sometimes that person can receive a church funeral. But the church funeral won't include all of the normal prayers for someone who died, quote unquote, by an accident, so to speak. So Hamlet's going, okay, so whoever this is, that person committed suicide. So Laertes asks, what ceremony else? That is, come on. What are the prayers? What are the rituals? You're not done yet. Do more. And he asks it again. Why? Emphasis. You got to do more for my sister. Okay? The priest, we've done all we can. Her obsequies, that is, her prayers, have been as far enlarged as we have warranted. I've done as much as I can. In fact, he actually says, I've done more than I should. Why? Her death was doubtful. We don't know that she died a quote-unquote holy death. A holy death meaning any death other than suicide. Like murder. Not by the murderer isn't the holy one, but the person's killed. Can be a holy death. All right? So, he says, her death was doubtful, but that great command oversways the order. Well, who issued the great command? Claudius. Claudius is the one who said, let's say this is the church. You're putting her in here. And if you don't, I'll get a new priest. Okay? No more, must there no more be done? No more. Okay? So, Laertes says, put her in the earth. And he jumps in the grave in a moment. But before he does, Laertes says, I tell thee, churlish priest, a ministering angel shall my sister be. And Hamlet hears that. Ophelia? What? The fair Ophelia? And the queen says, sweets to the sweet, scattering flowers. I hoped thou shouldst have been my Hamlet's wife. What did both Laertes and Polonius tell Ophelia early in the play? Act 1, in fact. You will never marry Hamlet. Hamlet is out of your league. As Laertes puts it, he's out of your star. I thought thy bride bed to have decked, sweet maid, and not have strewed thy grave. Now, I think that also tells us something else. Not only did she want Ophelia to marry Hamlet, I think that's also telling us she knew they were in love. Okay? So, that's when Laertes jumps in the grave, and then Hamlet bursts forth from hiding. Bear in mind, on the stage, Shakespeare's day, there's 2 big columns that are holding up the roof. Okay? And the roof is painted, it's got clouds and stuff, but there's also, almost like this, almost like a drop ceiling, okay? Where in an area above that, they can have essentially a crane with a chain to lower somebody down from it, like if you need to lower a god. Similarly, there's a trap door where they can have somebody come up from hell. The ghost usually comes up from the trap door. He doesn't come down from heaven. Okay? So, Hamlet probably bursts out from behind one of these columns and says, this is I, Hamlet the Dane. This is I, Hamlet the Dane. Hamlet the Dane can mean a couple of things. One of them, very simply, is, hi y'all, it's me, Hamlet, you know me, Danish Hamlet, not Hamlet the Norwegian, not Hamlet the Polak. Okay? It could also mean, this is Hamlet the Dane, meaning the one who should be king. I am the Denmark. Okay? And he jumps into Ophelia's grave. So now we've got Ophelia in the grave, hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully in a casket with a roof on it so they're not stomping on her body, okay? Because that wouldn't be good. And now Hamlet and Laertes are both in there, and Hamlet says these words, and the very next words out of Laertes are, the devil take thy soul. And we're told they grapple. Hamlet, oh, priest, not well. Oh, I prithee take thy fingers from my throat, because he's being strangled. Okay? For though I am not splenitive and rash, yet I have in me something dangerous, which let thy wisdom fear. Hold, in other words, don't push me. What's the something dangerous? It goes back to Hamlet's first speech to his mother. In response to her, why seems it so particular with thee, Hamlet? And he says, seems, madam? No. And he goes on and on about all of his dress and his behaviors. And he says, I have that within which surpasseth show. You don't want to piss me off, Laertes, because I'll kill you. Which he does. Okay? So, they part Hamlet and Laertes when they get out of the grave. And Hamlet says, I will fight with him upon this theme until my eyelids will no longer wag. Okay? That is, move. And the queen's like, well, what theme, Hamlet? Because she still thinks he's crazy. What theme? What point will you argue, Hamlet? I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not, with their quantity of love, make up my sum. He loved Ophelia, Laertes. 40,000 of those could not total the love I had for Ophelia. Okay, so now take that and read it back into Act 3, when Hamlet says to Ophelia, get thee to a nunnery. I loved thee once. And then he says, I loved thee not. And she says, I was the more deceived. And then he says, believe none of us. It's reading this back into that makes me think that when Hamlet says that, okay, he's not being honest with her. That's his way of telling her, go to a nunnery. Why? What's going to happen at Elsinore, the castle? I mean, there's going to be a mass slaughter. A lot of people are going to die. Ophelia, go be safe. Okay? I could be wrong. I could really be wrong, but I don't think I am. So, King tells Laertes, he's mad. He's crazy. Okay? So Hamlet says, what do? You want to fight? You want to weep? You want to... Okay? And Hamlet says to Laertes, bottom of that page, line 258 or so, hear you, sir, what is the reason that you use me thus? That is, the use means, why were you attacking me? Why were you hitting me? I loved you ever. Some critics want to go, oh, that's telling us Hamlet's bisexual or Hamlet's homosexual. No. Hamlet is saying, I always regarded you as a friend. Okay? But it is no matter. Let Hercules himself do what he may. So, King says, Horatio, wait upon Hamlet. That is, take him off somewhere, get him some Xanax and some other sedatives and calm him down. Okay? So Hamlet and Horatio leave. Scene 2, which we'll do pretty quickly. Hamlet tells Horatio how he escaped from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, how he got back from the trip to England. He never actually made it to England. Okay? Talks about switching the letters, talks about having in his bag the signet ring that belonged to his father. The signet ring is a ring, I have one, but I don't have it on me because my fingers are swollen. It is a ring that has an image on it, so that when you seal something, like a letter, you fold it or you roll it, you drip hot wax on it, and you imprint the seal on it. Okay? Well, that seal is the same seal as Claudius now has. So when the King of England would see the letter sealed, he'd know it was sent by the king. And Hamlet says, I replaced the letters, so the letters say, kill the bearers of these letters. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Okay? So, and Hamlet says, in response to Horatio's, line 56, page 1691. So Guildenstern and Rosencrantz go to it, meaning their death, Hamlet. They made love to their employment. They wanted this job. Why? Because it got them in good with Claudius. He says, I don't feel any guilt for their death. Okay? And then Hamlet, just out in the open tells Horatio, think about this king. How does it stand upon me now? Line 63. He that hath killed my king, whored my mother, popped in between the election and my hopes. What's the election and my hopes? kingship. Kingship. See, in Germanic law, Germanic custom, let me rephrase it. Danish custom and Germanic meaning the Germanic nations on the continent. Okay? Like Germany, at the time when Shakespeare was writing, okay? If the king or the Holy Roman Emperor, because there was still one at the time, died, there was an election for the new emperor or the new king. Usually, the person who was elected was the next in line, the king's eldest son. But sometimes that person, and this was true also in older English culture, pre-1000, this also was true there. Usually it was the king's eldest son. Sometimes, however, that person wasn't elected. Maybe the electors, the council of advisors thought, that person's not going to be a good king. He's not manly enough. He's not courageous enough. He might be maimed. He might be deformed. Yes?
Just real quick, are we to assume that Guildenstern and Rosecrans are dead?
Yes.
Okay, because they went to England and the whole war thing? Or,
okay. It's not because they went to England and the whole war thing. It's because Hamlet...
he switched the name.
He switched, actually, the letters.
Okay.
He rewrote letters and said, kill these two individuals. So they went all the way on the trip. Remember they were attacked by pirates? Hamlet got on another boat. He replaced the letters. He put, his letters that he wrote with their bags. So they go to England, okay? And the King of England reads the letters and they're killed. All right? So, the rest of scene 2, a courtier comes in named Osric. All right? And he comes in to tell Hamlet and Horatio, that the king is suggesting, why don't you and Laertes, have a little foil match? And the king's wagering on you to win. And it's just a nice, fun game. Okay? Hamlet's like, cool, we'll do it. But on 1695, Hamlet tells, top of 1695, Hamlet tells Horatio he's got a bad feeling about this. Okay? Bottom of 1694, Horatio tells Hamlet, you're going to lose. That's a way for your best friend to really buck you up in trying times. You're going to lose, Hamlet. Why does he say Hamlet's going to lose? Because Hamlet's fat and out of shape. Laertes isn't. Okay? Hamlet said, no, I don't think so. Since he went off into France, I've been practicing. Okay? So, but Hamlet says, no, my problem is something here about the heart. It's but foolery. Such a kind of a gain giving as would perhaps trouble a woman. That is, butterflies. Horatio, if your mind dislike anything, obey it. If your mind, notice, Hamlet says the problem is around his heart. Horatio, if your mind tells you don't do it, don't do it. Okay? I'll give a reason. I'll tell them you're not feeling well. And Hamlet gives this little short reply that, as Polonius says about one of Hamlet's speeches, is pregnant with meaning. I mean, it's just bursting forth. Hamlet, not a whit. That is, nope, you're not going to lie for me. Why? We defy augury. Augury, what does that mean? Fortune telling, or future telling, or prophecy, or looking at signs and saying, oh, this is going to happen. Hamlet says, there's a special providence in the fall of a sparrow. Compare that with Matthew 10, verses 29 to 31, or Luke 12, verses 6 through 7. Matthew 10, 29 to 31. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will? Okay? Your Father's will, that's the providence of God. There's a special providence in the fall of a sparrow. Hamlet is saying God is in control. If it be now, got 1 minute left. What's the it he's talking about? If it be now, 'tis not to come. 'Tis, it is not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. What's the it he's referring to? Death. Death. If death be now, it's not going to come later. If death is not now, then it will come later. If it's not to come later, then it will be now. If it's not now, it will come later. And then what does he say? The readiness is all. What's he mean, the readiness is all?
You have to be ready to die. I think he's ready to die.
You got to be ready to die. When?
Whatever.
Now? Yes. Because you don't know if it's going to be now or tomorrow. All right? Okay, we'll stop there, and we'll finish this fairly quick. So, for Thursday, start reading the study of Sophocles and Oedipus the King. I don't care how far Oedipus the King you get into. Just start. This literally won't take us very long to finish the rest of the play because it goes rather quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.